Okay, let's move on and talk about the Syndicate tech stack. Now, a quick commentary on Syndicate platforms and SPV administrators. Firstly, I want to emphasize that the crux of building syndicates and operating your network is around people. Platforms and tech is useful, essential even, but it's not a magic bullet, right? So focus on building and having a strong investor network first. Within your syndicate tech stack, having the SPV piece is essential. And there's three ways we can fulfill it, right? One is you could choose to do it yourself. I recommend you don't, by the way, to be clear. You can use an administrator, or your third option is to use a syndicate platform with an attached administration service, right? They do it on the back end for you. But either way, you need to have this solved in your tech stack. Second, a lot of these are lock-in decisions. Once you start building on a platform, partner with an administrator, it's expensive or painful to migrate. So I encourage you, given these switching costs, make your decisions with a long-term view, right? Take the time to evaluate them because you're probably going to stick with them realistically. Next, when you're working with syndicate platforms, a few considerations. One is think about new investor acquisition. How viable is this a channel for you to acquire new investors? It really depends on the platform and how they design it. For AngelList, to take an example that's well known, is that I get outreaches every week from random angel syndicate. I've generally not deployed capital in any of them because I just don't know them. Again, this is coming back to the concept of, look, it's a people problem. If I know the syndicate lead, yes, I would take a look at it. So this is the point that I'm making here. Second, the exposure. The platform design can affect how visible your investors are to other syndicates and potentially leakage or flow of your investors to other networks. There are some mechanisms in place, like some platforms will have private versus public syndicates, and those things can help, but just be aware of this implication. And then a third consideration is what I call the small check problem. Better discoverability sometimes can drive down a lot of your policy decisions. For example, I think on a broad average, the average check on AngelList might be $1,000 to $3,000. And so it makes it really hard to hit large raises, especially if you consider that in some jurisdictions, some structures, there's a limit of 25, 50, or even 99 investors per SPV, right? So there's a cap on the number of investors. And so with small checks, it can curtail that. And then also carry sharing, right? Some platforms do take carry on deals done other transactions. And so you have to decide if the trade-off makes sense relative to the value you receive, which is a UI for managing deals, which is beneficial. Some platforms do accreditation enforcement. So from a liability regime, ensuring that your investors are qualified, sophisticated, that's also valuable. The other option is if you don't have a platform, what is your backup? Okay, so I encourage you to think about your tech stack in these different layers. If you're building it yourself, and I've designed my own, this is how we've operated at the start, is you need a way for investor acquisition and onboarding, right? Some way to find information on your investors. To do one-to-one onboarding, this is what I encourage. And so I just use LinkedIn, Calendly, these free or very low-cost SaaS tools. For investor management, you need a CRM. It's helpful to have metadata. Who invested in which deals, how much, to be able to segment investors as well. For publishing deal flow, I use email automation. This is just a way to reach investors where they do their work day to day. So we like email automation. We can run campaigns. We can use that to share investor updates. We can do automations, and it's helpful to have some web form functionality in case you need to get investor commitments. And for data rooms, you need a diligence repository, some way to store information. You need to have access control as well. Analytics tracking is helpful. This is one benefit of email because you can see classic email analytics like open rates, click rates. The right email automation also gives you visibility into who clicked which links, right? So you know who's engaged or not. And then finally, the administration layer. You need to do KYC, AML, SPD governance. You need document e-signing. You need structures for charging management fees, setting up carried interest, tax filing, carry sharing, returns distribution, all of these, and they can be handled by administrators.